What's up, Internet? I'm Chimera, and I am bad at Homecoming City of Heroes. Of course, we're back with Professor Lareaux, and we have got to see here. We've got to return to Noble Savage. I wasn't sure in our last episode if we were going back to Noble Savage or the Palatine, but that confirms it. So here we go.
Your report of the Free Fire Zone is troubling, Professor Lareaux. I've seen the apparitions only from afar, or when my diagnostics deem it essential for my mortal mind to dream. I am surprised that dust can't hold the apparitions off. They're crack troops with persona safeguard training that you saw so many of them possessed. We're missing something here. But I have some suspicions on where to start looking for possible answers. None of it negates resupply of the compound, however. Now don't get all misty-eyed when I say this, Professor Lareaux, but you're all right in my book. Granted, I hear the movies better, but, well, yeah. You know what I'm trying to say. Come on, we've got more stuff to do. Theory time, Professor Lareaux. For years, Dust has been using the Free Fire Zone as a training ground, which loosely translates into live fire exercises against any and all targets that they can find there. They do this with the full but undisclosed support of some agency within the Cole regime back in Pretoria proper, one that funds them, equips them, and refills their ranks with fresh super soldiers when necessary. They couldn't do this without being in contact with said agency. Word from the FFZ is that a Dust Special Operations Science Lab codenamed Arclight suddenly went Black Channel. Either their comms are down, or there's no one home. Get into Arclight and find their communication records. We need to know what Dust has told its upper command about the situation here, and if they ever got a response. Someone in Pretoria may have a way to contain the apparitions, or they may simply be sending in heavier forces. If things are really bad, then they may just be abandoning their cells out there altogether. In any case, we can't afford to be in the dark.
We'll need something to bypass the Black Channel for this to work at all.
You're right. When you're inside Arclight, find a way to temporarily override the communications lockdown. Here, take this ghost band transceiver with you. With it, I'll be able to advise you from here. Good hunting, Professor Lareaux.
For a brief moment, your ghost band transceiver explodes into a chorus of screams and commands that you cannot parse. The insidious power of the apparitions is at work here. Well, that's gross. Black Channel Protocol's temporary bypass. Some archive transmissions corrupted. This comm station array only contains the last outgoing transmission from ArcLight. For last incoming transmissions, please try another terminal. Project ArcLight transmission log outgoing. Captain Jennings, CO ArcLight, to Colonel Vargas, CO DSEC. Colonel, I'm happy to report that the Awakened were retrieved from the sunken city and brought back to ArcLight as per your orders. The operations went smoother than expected, with no casualties, despite the warnings from the asylum that the Awakened may be unnaturally antagonistic in their confusion. Instead, they gave my men no trouble at all and came to Arclight willingly, as if they wanted our protection from the rest of the First Ward. Mother should be pleased. The attack continues. These Awakened are mind-controlling my men to wander into the FFZ and get possessed by apparitions. Arclight is full of ghosts and these crazy asylum seers. Please send help, Colonel. I'm concerned that my whole cell will be compromised by nightfall. Transmission ends abruptly. Major Loeb, Acting CO, Arclight, to Colonel Vargas, CO, DSEC. Captain Jennings was compromised, sir, and put down, but the apparitions inside him simply jumped to Specialist Holloway. There are only 4 of us left now. Our persona training is useless against these ghosts, especially when the Awakened keep hitting us with psycho-Socratic logic loops. I'm hereby shutting Arclight down. Do not send help. Repeat, do not send help. I can already feel like I'm haunted in some way. I pray that the efforts at Better Mousetrap can find a way to end this. Tell Mother we tried. Loeb is one of them. Fields is one of them. No one can find Foster. Why aren't you responding to us, Colonel? Why are we going under Black Channel? Only Praetor Tillman can authorize that. I'm about to toxic and gutted and no apologies. Oh no, I didn't say that. You will pay us in the meat and we will have unfinished business. I'm not saying this. Transmission ends after the sound of a sidearm firing. Alright, this is the second comm array. I may have missed the first one. So I'm going to head back. I'm going to do a little bit of backtracking and look for it. And there it is. Black Channel Protocol's temporary bypass. Some archive transmissions corrupted. This comm station array only contains the last incoming transmission from ArcLight. For last outgoing transmissions, please try another terminal. Project ArcLight. Transmissions log incoming. Colonel Vargas, CO DSEC, to Captain Jennings, CO ArcLight. Captain, our mother just called. It seems some very special seers either escaped or were broken out of the asylum recently. Current reports from the cell captains in the FFZ pinpoint them as being in the sunken city. I need you to send a squadron out and retrieve them. Bring the seers back to ArcLight and contain them until further orders. Be advised, the asylum are referring to these seers as awakened, but I have no idea what that means. Evidently, they exhibit strange mutations, often physical, and give off a psychic resonance quite unlike the seers we are familiar with. Your men should have ample enough persona psychic defense training to deal with them, but the asylum notes that these awakened may put up a fight. Under no circumstances are you to damage the package. This comes from on high. We mustn't disappoint her. Vargas out. And this looks like this is in response to the first outgoing transmission we read on the other terminal. Well done, Captain. I relayed your success to the asylum. They should be sending out one of their own. Did they proofread this? They should be sending out one of their own spec ops teams to ArcLight for immediate exfil of the package. Between you and me, I really hope it's not the IDF, or this thing is going to move from strange request to something really bad happened. Vargas out. Colonel Vargas, CO DSEC, to all cell commanding officers of Special Operations in First Ward. Be advised that the awakened are a red level threat. Shoot them on sight. They are also working with the apparitions in the FFZ for reasons that remain unknown. Several Dust soldiers have already been compromised, either through possession or mind control. Shoot them on sight. They cannot be saved. We have our science team at Better Mousetrap looking into the hows and whys, but until you hear different, consider us at battle stations throughout the ward. I have relayed all of this to the asylum. When I hear from Mother, I will update you all. Stay safe and stay strong. We will get out of this. Vargas out. Colonel Vargas, CO DSEC, to all commanding officers in First Ward. Colonel Vargas to all Dust Special Operations throughout the ward. ArcLight is compromised. Better Mousetrap is compromised. The FFZ is a ghost zone. DSEC, we have our own problems. The less I say about the Seer network, the better. Someone in Pretoria has just enacted the Black Channel protocols. You all know what that means. We will be cut off from one another. Mother has decided to abandon her children. The Black Channel is set to drop now. So I've got one chance to say it. There is no help coming. Repeat. There is no help. Transmission ends, presumably because the Black Channel protocols went into effect. All right, so essentially what's gone down is we kind of found out we wanted to investigate what's going on with like the dust uh, operatives and these weird apparitions, these ghosts, one of which took over the monarch. And we saw what came of that. It seems they're running rampant in First Ward now. And we just downloaded some transmission files that kind of outlined what was happening as all of that kind of like the ground zero of it all, basically, is what we just witnessed. Alrighty, let's give Noble Savage a call. We'll get Gully and some of our more technical guys on these data retrievals, Professor Lareaux. But it's pretty evident that Arclight's last operation was a disaster, and that the next step is the Better Mousetrap Medical Facility. The asylum is certainly frightened of these awakened, enough for Praetor Tillman to condemn the very soldiers that reported their existence. We're going to need to stretch our resources even further. Praetor Tillman was mentioned in a previous episode. Praetor Tillman is also the mother that Dust was referring to in those transmissions. Praetor Tillman is also known as Mother Mayhem. She's a very powerful psychic, and she is in charge of what's referred to as the Seer Network on Praetoria. Um, Essentially, what happens is that any child born, um, usually female, with any sort of latent psychic abilities, are taken by the government and sent to Praetor Tillman's facilities to become a part of the Seer network. And like it's this whole like um, Minority Report thought police type situation where the Seers are distributed throughout the city and they read surface level thoughts of every single citizen. And if there's any sort of like any thought of criminal activity, any thoughts of dissent in any way, shape, or form, um, then that citizen is immediately arrested. So like there's this um, like on the surface, it seems like Pretoria is a utopia because there's no crime, but that's only because they're taking people away before crimes can be committed, even if they were never going to commit the crime in the first place. So it's kind of one of those things where like every utopia is secretly a dystopia is essentially that kind of trope. So let's see what's next on the agenda. So we know that a different Spec Ops team from Dust took some awakened to the medical facility codenamed Better Mousetrap. According to the files you brought back, they were hoping to use its equipment to figure out how the awakened could take over their seers so easily, and whether there's any kind of procedure to remove or prevent it. We need to know if Dust has any medical records on file regarding the awakened, and, if so, we need to retrieve them. Trust me, once those psychic monstrosities are done with Dust, they're going to move out to the rest of First Ward. The compound simply can't handle them. I'll find out whatever medical records there are. I hate to ask this of you, Professor Lareaux, but I need you to bring back any medical supplies you can find as well. And one more thing. That ghost band transceiver we used at Arclight, well, turns out that all this time in proximity to those apparitions in there fried it. Gully has no idea why, but you're going to be there without my help on this one. I know that I added words and took words away, but when reading, my brain has the same weird mental glitch that it has while I'm talking. Uh, like my brain will just subconsciously add and subtract or even completely change things I'm saying or reading without me even noticing until it's already come out or I've already read it. Um, and it may have something to do with that weird dyslexia thing I was talking about too, where like if a lot of words are compact and kind of jumbled together, like large paragraphs on a page, for example, the letters kind of start dancing around, and my brain just tries to fill in the blanks. But that also has like there's also a verbal component to it as well. I will um, verbally like mix up my words as I'm talking, and so my brain has kind of developed this subconscious like correction to prevent that from happening. But it also has resulted in just me saying some of the weirdest shit sometimes, and I don't know what I can do about it. But yeah, so I'm going to be reading things that maybe aren't exactly what's written down, but I'll try to, you know, correct myself as it happens. It looks like dust abandoned this medical facility. The unnerving sensation of the awakened moving freely about may explain why. So the awakened, as far as we can tell so far, are former seers um, that at one point were sent to the asylum. I don't think we've seen the asylum in the game yet, but it's basically where all of the rejects that can't be controlled go. And that's usually the first stop before being exiled to First Ward. But yeah, the awakened are former seers, and they were exiled to First Ward for one reason or another. But they've suddenly gained like a ton of power, and nobody knows how they've gotten so powerful all of a sudden. Something to do with the mutations that were mentioned in the transmissions. I've only read through this once before, so I can't quite recall. But I think that the sudden increase in power level that the awakened have has something to do. I think there's a correlation between their power levels and the sudden incursion by the apparitions. The two are related in some way, but I can't remember exactly why. thing that makes psychic damage so brutal is that not only is there very little resistance and very little defense against it, mechanically speaking, but there's also a component to it that increases the amount of time it takes for my abilities to cool down or recharge. So, like, I'm taking more damage and dealing less damage at the same time. Sucks. You find a series of local medical transcripts regarding the awakened seers. Dr. Jonas Fletcher, field surgeon and in res- field surgeon in residence to Dust Special Operations in First Ward, Better Mousetrap. Just before the Black Channel fell, Colonel Vargas, the CO of DSEC, ordered one of our squadrons from Better Mousetrap to capture as many of the seer subjects designated awakened as we could. What started as a seemingly innocuous request from Mother has turned into a 4-alarm fire. But that's not really the point of these reports. Forgive me. The stress is getting to all of us. We did not suspect any associations between the awakened and the apparitions at the time Arclight was sent into the sunken city, and still do not have any verifiable evidence to support such a claim. What we do know is that the presence of the awakened caused nearly all of the seers attached to the dust cells here in First Ward to turn on us as well. The current theory is that the awakened carry some kind of psychic contagion, which normally healthy seers can catch, and readily so. Again, what any of this has to do with the apparitions is still under investigation. The mutations that manifest in the awakened seem to be psychomorphic in nature, indicative of exposure to enormous amounts of nth-gen psychic stress. Though we do not have an exact pattern yet, these mutations come in degrees of physical severity, from barely noticeable to almost supraterrestrial level physiology. Whatever the pattern, the severity of physical mutations in awakened do not seem to correspond to their levels of psychic power. The reasons for this are currently unknown. We may never make the connection between the awakened and the apparitions. Once our initial reports were sent to Colonel Vargas at DSEC, who then relayed such findings to the asylum, it resulted in an immediate call for Black Channel protocols across all Dust Special Operations in First Ward. Mother has deemed that the secret medical facility be condemned and quietly disappeared. How nice. The Black Channel will lock us all down, so I fear this may be my last report. In that case, I would like to formally put on the record that I believe that a magician should have been sent here instead of a doctor. The awakened I can work on. Correction, I could have worked on had the asylum given us adequate protection. But just what am I supposed to do about these apparitions? What advice can I give that doesn't end up straying into the occult, a subject I never studied? How am I supposed to perform an autopsy on a ghost? So yeah, some more clues there. The apparitions um, seem to be influencing not just the awakened, but also the seers in some way. What's the medical records only really show that dust is playing theory time too. The words inconclusive and possible are used about every third sentence. Hmm. There has to be some truth to it, though. Between the dispatches you found at Arclight and these medical records is a connection that the asylum doesn't want getting out at all. Professor Lareaux, there is a reason that my people call themselves the Forlorn. Even in the armpit of Cole's regime, where there's a monster around every corner, we're often looked on as the worst of them all. And we can't forget what we did back when we were rabid. So sometimes, at your worst, you start to believe the rest of the warders. Look, I'm embarrassing myself. Your actions here in the gumbo have given the forlorn some hope. I just wanted you to know that. We need to consult an expert on psychic phenomena. I know about mind control, but after that, next to nothing. I'm going to assume that these awakened are an immediate threat to the compound, and our only psychic allies are those in the Carnival of Light. I understand the last hetman shook that alliance up pretty bad, so I'd like you to speak to them on my behalf. The one named Candlestick used his powers to confirm that the Palatine was real, correct? Start by talking with him. Yes, sir! Can't wait, sir! Good, I guess. I hope you're feeling all right, Professor Lareaux. We can't afford to lose you. Yep. So there's another little glitch in Professor Lareaux's psyche there. Hey now, boyo. Don't cut yourself with that tongue, you hear me? Right rude you are. Now listen, the psychics of the carnival, including yours truly, we're not even about to dare fate by probing the thoughts of those awakened. It could become a two-way street, and I like my mind right where it sits, you know? Seers are serious business, and these whack jobs are off their leash. The most famous of the seers that got away from the network is Katie Douglas. Maybe you already know her. A celebrity she is. Well, to some folks anyhow. Candlestick, I want to apologize for my outburst. It's all right, lad. Don't fret. All of us first warders get the shouts sometimes and yell and just yell the fool. The gumbo can get to a body, you know? Thanks. Where can I find Katie Douglas? For a jailbird that wants to stay off the grid, Kitty Douglas doesn't exactly take great pains to hide her whereabouts. Scuttlebutts that she and a few seers she's rescued from the network have holed up in Office 1381. The name of said domicile is both an inside joke and a dare to anyone Coleside that might be thinking of coming after her. Look for Katie Douglas there. But be warned, she's not too fond of the compound and wants zero to do with the carnival. That said, if you need an expert on seers and the skinny on the awakened, Katie's your best bet. I'll find her. Judging by the dead bodies of ex-seers littering the hall, someone else got here before you, and you can sense it's the apparitions. I'm confused. Oh, I just noticed the objective too. Feast on the remaining apparitions using dust hosts in vain. Secure the mind of Katie Douglas for your own. I did not pay attention. Welp. Okay, so now our objective is back to normal. Rescue Katie Douglas. Maybe I should read those when I'm not in combat. And just what do you want? I need your help. Help you? After you bring apparitions into my house and they kill my sisters? Do you know what you've done? I had no idea the apparitions were after you until I arrived. Katie Douglas scanned your mind. You're you're telling the truth, but you had some idea they might be. Wait, you had one inside you? Or was it two? Oh, and I guess that string of confusion I'm now reading in your head is just what you call an excuse. Yeah, so that's so not going to work with me. Wait, can you hear that? More are coming. And no more excuses. Get ready. You're going to owe me for this, Professor Lareaux. Oh, I guess that was it. I was expecting more. Okay, killer. Your mind says you're here about the awakened. What do they have to do with all of these apparitions everywhere? That's what I was hoping you could tell me. Katie Douglas scans your mind again. Fine. I'll help you out. It looks like you've been trying to figure out the connection between the apparitions and the awakened for a while. And I can see that you've been doing some good for the First Ward along the way. Things are going to get ugly before we reach the end of this road. But let's be clear. I won't forget what was done to my sisters, and I will always associate it with you. Go back and tell Noble Savage that I'm on board. I'll be in touch after that. It's a deal. Alrighty. And we are going to continue this chain of missions in our next episode. Goodbye.